Well then, Dawn of War Definitive Edition, eh? In hindsight, this is perhaps not the most surprising announcement ever, but I'm glad to see it regardless. With Relic now being fully independent from Sega, and the IP rights to Dawn of War being in their hands, along with Games Workshop, remastering what is perhaps their most popular and successful game is a smart first project for the newly indie studio. While there is no release date yet, it looks like sometime this year is probable. I'd guess around Q3 or Q4. Maybe we get a firm date at the PC Gaming Show this month. Now, I'll be honest, when this was first revealed, I wasn't exactly blown away. Like, Dawn of War is great as it is. It has mostly functioning multiplayer, it's available on Steam, there's mod support. What could a definitive edition bring, really? Well, I thought about it and it turns out quite a lot. Modern resolutions and monitor support is a big one. While it's mostly okay in the expansions, the original game and Winter Assault were not built for widescreen and it shows. This, along with upscaled textures and reworked lighting, will give the game a modern coat of paint that, all going well, will still retain the spirit of the original while bringing it in line with other RTS remakes like Age of Empires 2 Definitive and Stronghold Definitive. Funnily enough though, the visual uplift may not be the most impactful thing this remake brings to the table. That trophy goes to the shiny new 64-bit platform and what it does for modding. As you know, there is quite the modding scene for Dawn of War, with one of the most popular being Ultimate Apocalypse for Soulstorm. Now, while it's absolutely a great mod, what is its biggest problem? Say it with me. Performance! It's arse once things get hectic, which in Ultimate Apocalypse is usually very quickly. Fix that, and suddenly UA becomes a fantastic mod without the big asterisk it has right now. This new 64-bit platform has the potential to be massive, and alongside the new mod manager, should breathe even more life into Dawn of War's 20-year-strong modding scene. And yes, if you are wondering, according to Relic, this remaster will support all mods already created for Dawn of War and its expansions. Now, one thing I'm not sure about is how the Definitive Edition will handle those expansions. While they are all included in the single package, it's not yet clear if they will be separate standalone entities as they are on Steam right now as part of the Anniversary Edition, or all mushed together into one game. I do hope it's the former, and because of how different mods have been created for different versions of Dawn of War, I think it probably will be. As you of course know, each expansion brought new units and mechanics to the existing factions, alongside its brand new ones. And by the time factions from the original base game got to Soulstorm, they varied quite a bit. It would be a big shame if we lost the ability to play the different versions of each faction, and were, for example, only given the ability to skirmish with the latest versions of them from Soulstorm. Of course, the campaigns would have to stay the same, as they weren't designed for the units that didn't exist at the point of their creation, but for skirmish, I'm not 100%. Hopefully, we're able to just boot into the game of our choosing and play them as they were on release. The existence of this new definitive edition of a classic real-time strategy game begs the question: what's in its future? Your first thought may be to think about an entirely new Dawn of War game, and you wouldn't be wrong in doing so. It wouldn't be the first time a developer has gauged interest in a series by dipping their toe in with a relatively low-risk endeavour such as a remaster. What I think is slightly more likely though is the possibility of new content or expansions. Because as we know, other big name RTS games that have had the same treatment have not only had patches and bug fixes included in the release itself, but in updates and new DLCs and expansions post-launch. Age of Empires 2 Definitive has easily been the most prevalent, with nearly a dozen new expansions released and announced after its 2019 launch. Much more than it had ever received before. Stronghold Definitive Edition is another example, with it receiving 2 paid DLC expansions post-launch, plus free content drops and other updates. Will Dawn of War receive the same treatment? Could it? Would they only do it for Soulstorm? Could they create new campaigns for earlier games like the original or Dark Crusade and bypass some of the more out there additions that Soulstorm made to the game? The opportunities are many, and exciting. I do think that if the game is a big hit and it moves some real numbers, the addition of a new faction or something into Soulstorm isn't out of the question completely. Anything more than that, I would say, is probably just a pipe dream. I don't think we'd get an entirely new expansion that superseded Soulstorm or anything like that. In totality, I do think all this will amount to is a decent re-release of a classic game, and nothing more. But hey, anything's possible, and I'd love to be proven wrong. Something else I'm wondering is this. Now that Relic is clearly open to doing definitive edition remasters of their existing catalogue, what's next? Well, let's see. What are our options? It couldn't be Homeworld 1 or 2, as they've been done already. Company of Heroes isn't a great candidate since its sequels are still being played, and most of us would probably agree that they're objective upgrades on the original. I don't think anyone's clamouring for a remaster of the outfit. Space Marine has just had a remaster announced last month, so that leaves only one option. That's right, everyone. It's Impossible Creatures! Let's go, baby! Rex Chance is back, and he's ready to mutate the local fauna in your area into ravenous beasts of war, no questions asked. Jokes aside, Impossible Creatures would be a great candidate for a definitive edition. It's modern enough to where it wouldn't be too much of a technical challenge. It would benefit from relatively easy technical upgrades like Steam multiplayer and high resolution monitor support, and it would really shine with a lighting and texture pass like what Dawn of War Definitive Edition is getting. Relic, give me Impossible Creatures Definitive and I will become an all Relic simp channel. Everything positive, Relic first content all the time. Consider me a free arm of your marketing department. But Zade, that's what you are already. Yes, very funny. The last nagging question I have about Dawn of War Definitive is the price. I'm thinking what I would pay for a bundle of all the original Dawn of War games with the technical uplift and software support is probably around $20 US. Maybe 25, considering Dawn of War Anniversary Edition already exists at a price of $35 US. Maybe this also goes for 35 with half off for those who already own that original bundle. I mean, let's think about it. Age of Empires 2 Definitive landed at $20 US and Stronghold Definitive at 15. I think Dawn of War and its expansions justify a premium over those games, considering the amount and quality of the content included. But I also think there's a ceiling for asking the majority of your players to rebuy a game they ostensibly already own, despite how much new stuff is included. So we'll have to wait and see where they land. How do you feel about Dawn of War Definitive Edition? Do you think it bodes well for the future of Relic? Perhaps hinting at a new, renewed interest at the ever-elusive Dawn of War 4? Or is it merely a developer cashing in on an existing IP for minimal effort? I'd like to think it's the former, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, appreciate you as always, and I'll see you next time.